that, I just have the honor and the privilege to introduce our hostess with the mostest, I would say, the person who made it all possible, my dear friend, sister, mentor, partner in crime, a lot of other accolades I can bestow upon her, but none other than PYXERA Global CEO, Deirdre White. Thanks, Deirdre.
CD, thanks so much for doing such a great job emceeing this, and thanks for that introduction. I'm not sure I can live up to it at this point, but just wanted to close you out with the last few words today. You heard from me a few times earlier today, but I thought that it was valuable to bring together some of the lessons, not only of the broadcast today, but also that we've learned over the last few days that we've spent together here in DC, those of us who were at the SDG Forum. We began today talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, and here they are in their entirety. And it's really important for you all to take a look and to look at the 17 goals and to understand that these are enormous goals. It's a huge task for us to take on, and 15 years is a very short period of time in which to be able to take them on. One of the things that we did at PYXERA Global when we were really overwhelmed by these goals at the outset was that we decided to take them apart. We actually took the UN's proposal, and several of us sat down and we cut it up into little strips. And we cut it up into these strips, and we had an arts and crafts project going on in my office where we were taping from whiteboard to whiteboard, rearranging these things. And we were trying to find a way to simplify this. And we simplified into this particular Venn diagram. It was a way for us to be able to get our heads around the enormity of the task. And what we did was we said, okay, these fall into 4 general categories. Human rights, they fall into the category of human and natural environment. We have economic opportunity and employment, and we also have health. It's really important that these are overlapping circles because these problems don't exist in a vacuum. They're very much interrelated. And one of the problems that happens in the whole space of international development is that we look at things in a silo. We think that we can solve the problem of hunger without looking at, we think we can solve problems with healthcare without looking at hunger and nutrition. We think that we can solve employment issues without looking at education. So this particular diagram gives us an opportunity to look at where the overlaps are. And in a perfect world, every project that anyone's working on would sit in multiple goal areas because we have to be considering multiple goals. So it's an enormous task. It's a complicated task. If you look at the goals themselves, one of the biggest dangers of these goals is that we're looking at them not as a vision, but as a checklist. And I had an opportunity the other day to be having a conversation with the head of international development for one of the largest companies in the world. And what she said to me was that she gathered information from everyone around the world that was running projects in their different country offices. And she gathered that information to find out what they were already doing toward these goals. And what she found out was that they were doing something about every single goal. Oh, hunger? Yes, absolutely. Health? Yes, absolutely. And she went down and she checked off the 17 things they were doing and felt really good about the company. Until a few days later, when she was sitting in a room with a bunch of other companies. And what she found out was that every one of those other large companies was checking off the list as well. And every one of those other large companies had hit all 17 points. So the caution here is that the SDGs cannot be a checklist. We need to keep the SDGs in their proper place as a vision. The SDGs cannot become a checklist because the world cannot afford for that to happen. So how do we avoid their becoming a checklist? Well, there's 3 main ways that I think that we can avoid it. The first one is with the right mindset. The second one is with the right problem definition. And the third one is with the right partnerships. Mindset's really important. And one of the things that is important to PYXERA Global is the way that we talk about our work. I've been working in this space that a lot of you would describe as international development for almost 3 decades now, my entire career. and I actually object to the term international development. Development is something you do to someone or something. At PYXERA Global, we talk about purposeful global engagement. Global engagement is something you do with someone or something. And it seems like maybe that's just words. But nomenclature really does matter because nomenclature drives mindset. So what does purposeful global engagement mean? It means we listen and learn. And I mean really listen and learn. We're not coming in with preconceived notions and then trying to find information that supports those preconceived notions. It means we lead and that we're willing to be led. We talk an awful lot about leadership and the importance of leadership skills, but boy, do we need some followership skills. It's really important that we know when to lead and when to follow. Purposeful global engagement has no place for third world. I really object to the term third world. It's about one world. And it's about whether people are hungry in Sao Paulo or San Francisco. It's about whether people are healthy in Delhi or Detroit. It's about equal access is about whether girls have desks in classrooms in Asia, but it's also whether faculty have access to positions in Africa. It's whether women have access to boardrooms in North America. These are issues that are not about one world versus another. They're not about North versus South. These are global issues. And if we haven't already realized that we're all in this together, and if we don't understand how much what's going on in other countries affects us here, the Ebola crisis should have brought it all to clear light. We ignore the well-being of people in other countries and other communities at our own peril. And if we weren't watching how fast the polar ice caps were melting, we know we are all quite literally in the same boat now, or in the not too distant future. These are global problems. We have to tackle them in global ways. And one of the ways to do that is by changing our mindsets and thinking about engagement rather than development, thinking about with rather than to. The second thing is problem definition. So when you look at that set of goals and you see all 17, you're thinking, okay, I gotta pick one, I gotta pick a goal. I'm encouraging you not to pick a goal, pick a problem. Pick one single problem that you think you might be able to have an impact on. Pick something you deeply care about. Think about the resources you have to bring to affect that problem, and then go about finding the partners to help you do that. A couple of thoughts on solvable problems. You heard three amazing social entrepreneurs today. You heard Scott, and you heard John, and you heard Shabita talk about what they did. They identified a problem, and they went out and they created a social enterprise to identify that, to address that problem. A solvable problem that we're looking at today is post-harvest loss. We know that we have a solution to this problem. Post-harvest loss refers to the amount of produce that's lost from the time that it should be harvested to when it gets to those store shelves. We're not talking here about the cucumber that rots in your refrigerator drawer or the spaghetti that you put too much on your plate and you throw it down the garbage disposal. This is post-harvest loss that happens when the tomatoes rot on the trucks going from the field to the market. It happens when the mango farmer grew mangoes that aren't of the right quality for the mango juice provider, and there's no secondary market for it. And we grow enough food today to feed the entire world. We already grow enough food to feed the entire world. If we captured this loss, we could feed almost 2 billion more people a year. It's an entirely solvable problem. We know what to do about it. We just need to bring the right people and the right resources and get them to focus on this problem. The skills gap problem, you heard a lot about today from IBM and from SAP and some of their pioneering solutions. We know how to solve this problem. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It's going to take a ton of resources, but we know how to solve this problem. So let's identify a single problem. Let's focus, and let's each put our best resources toward the problems that matter to us and that we can affect most. And of course, we can't go it alone. So the last thing is partnership. And partnership is something you heard a lot of talk about today. No one can do it alone. We heard about some of the challenges of partnership, but one thing that's important to talk about is the courage that it takes to have a real partnership. the courage that it takes to actually be able to let go of some of your own needs and desires in the interest of making something work together. The courage, if you're a donor, if you're the person writing the check, to feel like you're not in the position of control and to actually let some of the control go to the implementing partner, if you will. We have to get rid of these different definitions. It takes courage to have a partnership because you have to disagree. You have to be willing to disagree. And I'm often known to say that if you never wanted to strangle your partner, it probably isn't a real partnership. But that's a really uncomfortable space to be in. Over the last couple of days, we talked a lot about gray space, and it was so interesting to me that gray space came up in a really positive light. Normally, you think of gray space as being a place where we lost our moral compass, where someone couldn't decide what was black and white. But we're realizing more and more every day that everyone's black and white are different. And so when you're trying to forge a partnership, we're all gonna have to get comfortable living in the gray space, and not get comfortable because it's a bad thing, but get comfortable because it's a good thing. So I challenge you all to embrace the gray. Finally, I've given you some assignments about changing mindset and about finding the right partnerships and getting comfortable with those, and about defining your problem and solving it. We want to know, what are you going to do today? What are you going to do tomorrow and next week and next month to help to drive progress toward that vision of a better world? So please share with us on Twitter at the hashtags you see on screen. We want to know what you're going to do. Thank you so much for tuning into this broadcast, and I hope that you learned something. I hope you were inspired, and I hope you're going to take action this afternoon, not even wait till tomorrow.